on the ship again. So I'll hold on to it till the morning and then release it in the first hours of the morning. And a lot of these birds live out here, as I said, but some are migrating from the Arctic to the Antarctic right now, 14,000-mile trips. Some are migrating to Australia. Some are migrating to New Zealand. This is something usually us landlubbers don't think about, but there are things that live out here and stay out here. Albatross, for instance, only go to land for one thing, reproduction. They lay an egg and they incubate it for a couple of months, a year, and then they go back out and they sleep on the wing. They sleep while they're flying. It's fascinating. I find that everybody thinks that that's the most fascinating thing I have to share. So there you go. So please call guest services and let them know. Lastly, a little bit of housekeeping. Tomorrow, you've probably heard a lot about this. We're going through the giant Pacific garbage patch. I know it's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but you've probably all heard of it by now. When I started telling people about it, nobody had ever heard of it. If you don't know, there are gyres in the oceans. And unfortunately, those are the places where our refuse ends up circling in the ocean. And the giant Pacific garbage patch is the greatest congregation of plastics on our planet. Hey, that's something to celebrate. So we're going to be passing right through the bottom section of it right here. Now, if you haven't gone outside and noticed what the ocean looks like, you might not even notice it tomorrow. Because it is not a giant raft of floating trash, not on the outside of the gyre. On the inside, the very center, there is density of plastics. But out here, if you go outside and look over the side tomorrow, and I think we get there in the morning, you might notice every 30 to 60 seconds, something passes right next to our ship. You can't see anything out away from us because these plastics range in size from coolers to tiny microscopic pieces of plastic. And remember, the average depth of the Pacific Ocean is 12,000 feet. So this ranges from the surface to the bottom. The area of the East Pacific Gyre, where we're headed tomorrow, is the size of Texas. 12,000 of them from top to bottom, right? So this is a lot of refuse, lots of plastic. This is what's making headlines regularly on CNN, and you're going to see it. So definitely walk outside tomorrow and carry that message home with you, whatever you see. We're going through it. I'll be talking about it on our way home. I have a few slides to speak of it. But it's the largest of the oceanic gyres, and it is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is what it's called. A friend of mine is the one who discovered it about 20 years ago, sailing from Hawaii to the United States mainland. Aloha nui loa. Warm greetings. Now you know a new phrase. Aloha nui loa. With much love. Hawaii is the 50th state. Became a state on August the 21st, 1959. The state's comprised of 143 islands spread out over 1,500 miles. And at the southeastern end, we are going to be visiting the most visited of the islands. That's because they're the newest. Many of them are submerged underwater as they started forming 65 million years ago. We're going to be focused on these down here at the end of the archipelago. So an archipelago is a chain of islands. And actually, this chain of islands extends from the island of Hawaii all the way up to the Aleutian Island chain of Alaska. I'll be talking about that in my volcanoes talk. They actually touch because they're all volcanoes. They were all formed individually, one at a time, by volcanic eruptions as the Pacific plate moved over a very hot spot in our Earth's mantle, burning through the crust and creating a new Hawaiian island. Now, as this crust moves this way, new islands are formed down the chain. So if you look at the ages of the islands, this becomes very evident. Kauai, the furthest north island we're going to visit, is 4 million years old. Whereas Hawaii, the newest island that's still being formed today, 560 new acres was created, by the way, on that last volcanic eruption. Still growing. It's only 300,000 years old. So as the plate moves over that hot spot, new islands are created each time. there's a picture of the two islands, the 300,000-year-old island of Hawaii and the 4-million-year-old, 3 to 5 million-year-old island of Kauai. See the dramatic cliffs after erosion has taken place? Now, we're headed to Hilo, Maui, Kona, Kauai, and Oahu. We're staying in the ports for very long periods of time, so it gives you ample opportunity to take advantage of all there is to do. And I want you to see the relative positions of those places. Hilo and Kona are on the same island, but we're actually going from Hilo to Maui, so that's kind of weird. But the must be something involved in that, right? Fuel savings or something. Hilo is on the Big Island. You might say, which island are we going to? You might hear the Big Island. Well, that, of course, is not the name of the island. It just happens to be the biggest one. So they call the island of Hawaii the Big Island. By the way, Hawaii is a state and an island and a county. It's very confusing. So just remember that the Big Island is the island of Hawaii. And right now, it is the youngest of the islands. But a new one is popping up in about 50,000 years. It's forming on the bottom of the ocean right now. Now, in Hilo, we're going to be talking about some of the places to go and places to visit. And I'll be pointing those out on maps for you as well. So first up, Hilo, Hawaii. From the port, this is a picture of the port. It's about a 2.5-mile walk to get downtown. FYI, if you want to see anything, you'll have to walk 2.5 miles or a $10 taxi ride to downtown. The port looks like that. There's nothing in there. There's no, stores. There's no t-shirt shops. There's nothing. There's nobody playing, greeting you. It's empty. So I know, like the Caribbean, it's completely different. This is not like that. Hilo is situated on 2 shield volcanoes, Mauna Loa, an active volcano, and Mauna Kea, a dormant volcano. This is the mountain behind the city of Hilo. You rarely ever see it because Hilo is a rainforest. It's on the trade wind side of the island, and it's blocking, that mountain behind it is blocking the rain from getting to the Kona side of the island. So they're going to look completely different. Kona is usually hot, it's a desert, and Hilo is a rainforest. They're both on the same island. It gets 140 inches of rain annually. So most likely it'll be raining there. You can count on that. If you get sun, woo, bonus. On the island of Hawaii, there are 5 volcanoes. Dormant volcanoes are volcanoes that have not erupted in 200 years. Extinct volcanoes will never erupt again. So the volcanoes on the island of Kauai, for instance, too far away from the hotspot, extinct, will never erupt again. The volcanoes on Hawaii, active and dormant, because they're sitting right on top of that hotspot. And there's little Loihi erupting off the coast of Hawaii right now. Kohala, the oldest volcano on the island, last erupted 60,000 years ago. She's considered extinct, usually if that's been that long. Mauna Kea last erupted 3,600 years ago. She's sitting dormant right now. Mauna Loa and Kilauea are both active. This is the one that was just erupting last year, of course, because it's closer to the hotspot. Hualile erupted 7 times in the last 2,100 years. And Mauna Loa last erupted in 1984. And both of these volcanoes were erupting in 1984, both headed towards the city of Hilo. Mauna Kea means snowy mountain. This mountain sits 13,802 feet above sea level. You can drive to the top of it in an hour. That's incredible. From the beach to snow, 13,000 feet in an hour. Together, from the bottom of the ocean, it's considered a mountain because it actually was formed on the bottom of the ocean. So altogether, 13,000 feet and 18,000 feet of water, it's actually the tallest mountain on Earth from base to summit. And it does get snow regularly. Blizzards, actually, on the top of Mauna Kea. Tom wants to go skiing up there. That's one of his bucket list things. You can go sledding in Hawaii. Who's going to do that? I don't know if they have any snow right now. You can ski as well. You got to carry your skis. They don't have any lifts on Mauna Kea. And it's the site of some of the world's most important ground-based astronomical observations, boasting the largest cluster of telescopes and observations in the world, thanks to the low levels of air and light pollution. So in the city of Hilo, they actually have to have special lights in the street lights as to not disrupt the telescopes up on top of the mountains. And it turns out that the Hawaiians have a very long history of stargazing. As a matter of fact, they use the stars for navigation. And I'll be talking about that throughout my program after we leave from Hawaii. Right now, however, I talked about Mauna Kea yesterday and going up there. They can't do that at the moment. I just found this out. The protests are still going on because they just got permission from the federal government scientists to build telescopes on top of Mauna Kea. But to the Hawaiians, this is a very sacred place. They're already not happy with the ones that are up there. And so they've decided to protest. And they've been protesting, I think now for 6 months, blocking the road to get up to the top. So the tours to get up to the top of Mauna Kea were canceled. And instead, they are giving discounts to an alternative tour to view Mauna Kea. So just FYI on that. Now, Hilo has a hop-on, hop-off bus. If that's something, I love to do those when I go to different cities. If this is something you'd like to do, you can walk about 12 to 15 minutes outside the port, and there's a place where you can get the hop-on, hop-off bus there. There are many waterfalls in Hilo, as you imagine, because it does have a rainforest. There's really no waterfalls on the Kona side of the island because it doesn't get any rain. It's a desert. So all the waterfalls are going to be on the Hilo side. Rainbow Falls is one of those famous waterfalls. Most of your tours are going to take you to Rainbow Falls. And in all the ports we visit, usually there's a historic home, a home of the first missionaries that came to Hawaii, which was in the 1820s. And those are on display as well. In this case, it's the Lyman Mission House, the oldest standing wood structure on the island. Now, about a 20-minute walk from the port is an area where you'll find Banyan Tree Row. Now, these are banyan trees, massive trees, sometimes 40 feet in diameter, because they have roots that come down from the tops of the trees to dig into the ground. And these trees actually were planted by very famous people back in the early 1900s. Babe Ruth, Amelia Earhart planted these trees. So it's kind of a nice walk under a shady street along the hotel row and a golf course there that you can enjoy some shade. And at night, all the coqui frogs come out and it's deafening. Luckily, we'll be gone. But they put a hotel on that street and all the windows have to be soundproof because you really never get a wink of sleep if you were trying to sleep through all those frogs. Now, Hilo is the home of the Mauna Loa macadamia nut plantation. Most people don't know that macadamia nuts are from Australia. Unless you're from Australia, you're always claiming those are yours. But macadamia nuts were brought to Hawaii in the 1940s, and they do really well there. So everybody associates them with Hawaii, but they're actually from Australia. You can visit the Mauna Loa factory and sample all their different types of macadamia nuts. It's a great tour, actually. The Big Island in Hilo also has the University of Hawaii, and 10% of the population that lives in Hilo are students or faculty of the university. The Big Island was ruled by many chiefs at one time, and King Kamehameha was one of the chiefs on the Kona side of the island. And as I mentioned yesterday, when he was young, he had a dream that he would once rule the United Kingdom of Hawaii. And eventually, with the help of artillery and ammunitions from Captain Cook, who came and made his first visit in the 1870s, he was actually able to get some of those, 1770s, get some of those tools that he needed to make that prophecy come true. He amassed a fleet of 800 war canoes, and he conquered Oahu and Maui and became known as King Kamehameha the Great, who ruled over a united Hawaii. And then his descendants, males and females, both continued that reign. Now, about 2 miles walk from the ship is a beautiful Japanese garden, a gift to Hawaii from the country of Japan. So you can walk down that hotel row and the banyan trees and have a lovely time in the Japanese gardens. Downtown Hilo, which is about a 2.5-mile walk or a $10 taxi ride, there's a farmer's market. And on that particular day we're going to be there, it's the biggest market of the week. So they'll have lots of vendors there, lots of foods for you to try, fruits and vegetables you may have never seen before. Take advantage of that. Try something new. That's why we travel. And so from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., there'll be a big farmer's market. And there is, for a very limited window in the morning, a free shuttle from the cruise ship down to the farmer's market. So there you go. Now, if you like to go to the beach, if it's raining, I highly don't recommend getting in the water on any island. Most of you don't live near the beach, but if you do, you know you don't swim in the ocean for 3 days after it rains because everything on land goes into the ocean. So guess where all the cattle farming is in Hawaii? On the tops of the mountains, right. So when you swim in the ocean after a big rainstorm, guess what you're swimming in? Exactly. So where I live in Southern California, we don't swim for 3 days after it rains because the ocean is full of everything that was just on the land. It all got washed into the ocean. So if the water looks murky brown, like your backs of your chairs, don't swim in it. I met a graduate student a couple years ago who was doing all his graduate work on viruses and MRSA in the waters around Hawaii after the rainstorms. So in Hilo, it rains a lot. So it's generally not a good place to go swimming unless they've had a little bit of a drought because there's lots of other things to do. It's not generally an issue. On the other side in Kona, they don't get the rain. Most of the other islands don't get that rain. Maui, on the Lahaina side, is also kind of dry, so they don't have that rain problem either. As I mentioned, 1946, first Australian macadamia nuts were planted. Now, downtown Hilo, 1946, a 42-foot wave took out the city. Came from an earthquake along the Aleutian Island chain, because those are all volcanoes. Came down, wiped out the city of Hilo. It's happened several times, actually. And so that's why there's a gigantic breakwater built outside the city of Hilo. And the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center was created in 1949 to warn everybody in the Pacific about earthquakes. This is where it happens, right here. So if you get a chance to get downtown, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., this museum is open. And it talks about the creation of this warning center, as well as the great tsunamis that have hit the Hawaiian Islands. It's really an excellent program. Another wonderful place to visit in Hilo is the Imiloa Planetarium and Museum of Hawaii and the Stars. As I said, Hawaiians have a long history of studying the stars, and this gives their history of stargazing and navigating with the stars. There's also a planetarium that has an IMAX show on the theater screen, on the theater walls, or the ceiling rather. So definitely, you can get there by Uber. You can get there by walking. It's about a 4-mile one-way walk. And it's open from 9 to 5. It has a little cafe. I love it. I go there usually every time I'm in Hilo. It's part of the university. Another place you might want to visit, because there's lots of waterfalls in Hilo, a 442-foot waterfalls at Akaka Falls State Park. Now that's located north of Hilo on Highway 220. Hilo's right here. So you'll be driving north on Highway 220. Again, you're in the United States. Just turn on Google. You can figure out how to get there. But just head to the north and you can see this fantastic waterfall. Lots of stairs, lots of hiking opportunities. Another cool place to visit, Punulu'u, Black Sand Beach. This is to the south of Hilo. But if you're looking for, a lot of people have on their bucket list to see a black sand beach. Well, the reason it's black sand is because it was created by a volcano. It was giant pieces of basalt rock that are being ground down by the ocean. And that beach is to the south. So again, Hilo's right here. You're going to come down. This is where the recent volcano eruptions happened. So some of these highways are closed, but you can come down through here and visit the Black Sand Beach. And here's my little secret spot for those of you that are geologists, amateur geologists. Papakolea is a green sand beach. And this is from deposits of olivine. It's a mineral that was ejected from the volcano. And deposited on the beaches here. It's about a 2-hour drive with a 1.5-hour hike to get there if you really want to see it. But it's the southernmost point in the United States proper. That's kind of cool too. It's way down there on the bottom of the map. And there's the green sand. Okay, next on our trip is Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. By far, the greatest idea we've ever had is our national park. So I definitely recommend visiting any of our national parks wherever possible. Some areas, of course, in this park are closed due to damage from the volcanoes. They went through a little bit of a change in the last year, like roads no longer there. The old crater actually collapsed. The road that used to drive around the crater is no longer there. If you are really, really, really bummed that there's no lava, you can check the USGS website every day to see what kind of volcanic activity is going on. They'll tell you all the earthquakes that have happened, and there's earthquakes every single day on the volcanoes. What earthquakes have happened, what the advisory levels are, where you can go see steam injections. So if you're really a volcano enthusiast, you should check this website when you get there. So a little bit of info about Hilo Volcanoes National Park. The national park is actually situated here. Hilo is over here. So we'll be driving about a 45-minute drive from the ship. So if you're planning on trying to walk there, it's not going to happen. You got to take a tour, rent a car. There's no public transportation that will take you there. But in 1983, we had the eruptions here that were coming out to the ocean. They caused some massive damage, destroyed a whole neighborhood. 1997, we had a one-day event that brought out, I think, a little vent right here, right into the ocean. And then from 1992 to 2017, this area was erupting. And I'll show you some pictures of that because that's when I visited it. And the last eruption went this way, all the way along this and into the ocean down here. So it was a big one, a long one. This was taken in 2015, I think. This is when it was flowing down, straight down to the ocean and falling into the ocean. I don't know if any of you were on that cruise, but the captain cruised by it at night. It was awesome. The hillside was lit up with lava and it was pouring into the ocean. You can see the steam vents coming down with lava flowing underneath the ground. That was new land that had just been created within a couple of months. Well, that's what's awesome about volcanoes. They are nature's rock cycle. So you can go stand on brand new earth that wasn't there just a few months ago. And take a look at this. This was brand new earth. It was only 4 months old, and there's already ferns growing. Now, it takes a while, about 60 years, to see a forest pop up out of a lava flow, but it happens because this is brand new earth and it's rich in nutrients. So volcanoes are known to be destructive, but also creators. New forest will spring out of a volcano. Now, volcanoes in Hawaii are shield volcanoes, different than the ones in Pompeii or Iceland or in the South Pacific in Tonga, where all of a sudden there's a quiet sea and boom, a new volcano erupts out of the ocean and you have a new island. Cartographers love that because they get to redraw maps again, right? So these are really gentle eruptions. There's a guy standing there, for heaven's sakes. You can't do that in Pompeii or those Italian volcanoes. These are very, very slow flowing eruptions, but they are the hottest lava on Earth. 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature of the lava of these shield volcanoes in Hawaii. And it's because of this hot spot that's right underneath the island that it's blowing up through the crust of the Earth and creating these magnificent Earth creators. Now, there's two different types of cooled lava, and you're going to see these on your journey, whether it's with a tour guide, a naturalist, or if you're driving alone on your own. There's two different types. On the left-hand side is very pillowy, cooled lava. And I want you to say this. It's called pahoehoe. Pahoehoe is very pillowy, kind of satiny looking. Don't be mistaken. Don't wear your flip-flops. It'll cut through your flip-flops. It's like glass. So you don't go on barefoot, you don't wear flip-flops, you wear hard-soled shoes to go out walking on the lava. And then over here we have A'a. A'a. And it's more like gravel when it flows. So I have a picture of it here. There's the chain of this conveyor belt of volcanoes created by the volcano, or the hot spot in the mantle. And Pele, the goddess of fire, being responsible for those volcanoes. This is the Kalapana Gardens neighborhood that was destroyed in the 1983 eruption. So nothing is really spared. Everything starts over again. And this was from last year, right down on the beaches where homes were destroyed, of course. But all these little tide pools out here are gone. Now that's new land that's been added to the island. This is A'a. You see how it's kind of gravelly looking as it flows? Very slow, very viscous. See the A'a flowing? Leaving kind of that gravelly texture as it goes. So volcanoes produce new earth and new land for crops, new land for thriving nature, and lava from the pit of a volcano is seen as a source of life. It's sacred rather than a source of destruction. It's really beautiful to Hawaiians in their culture and their lore. Now, Mauna Loa, the lava covered 160,000 acres of land, but also created 500 acres of land in the last 30 years. And Kilauea just created 760 new acres of land. That's Pahoehoe. See how pillowy it is? Satiny it looks. It's 2,000 degrees. I wouldn't touch it, but it's beautiful. And the gorgeous designs that are left behind are something to be marveled. So volcanoes created this and this. Paradise. So remember that as you're walking around. That was all inside the earth, ejected from the mantle, and a forest sprang out of it. Miracle. Now we move on to Maui, the Valley Isle. Here's a map of Maui. We're coming into port right here, Kahului Harbor. Now, as I mentioned, the trade winds blow this way. So this is a little bottleneck where the winds blow right through the island. There's a big mountain here, so they can't blow across. But right here, they have wind turbines. Whenever you see wind turbines, that means it's windy. So the beaches right next to the ship, no good. Sandblasted. That's why they have kite surfing there. Unless there's no wind, which is weird, but if there's no wind that day, there is a beach about a mile away from the ship that's really pretty, but normally it's only for kite surfers. So kind of get your head around the map here of Maui. We're going to talk about some of these places. There's Lahaina. That's the spot where most cruise ships go. That's where all the restaurants and shops are. So as you can see, it's not very close. It's actually about a 45-minute to 1 hour drive. Mark Twain visited Maui. He says, I went to Maui to stay a week and remained 5. I never spent so pleasant a month before or bade any place goodbye so regretfully. I haven't once thought of business or care or human toil or sorrow or weariness, and the memory of it will remain with me always. Maui is a beautiful island. It's actually Tom's favorite island, and there's so much to do there. You could literally spend a month and not really have seen the whole thing yet. Here's where our cruise ship docks. I show you this picture because there's nothing here. Again, you're in a high security port. So the walls are like prison walls. There's barbed wire over the tops. And if you were to walk, you would get off the ship, walk through here, all the way out here to the main road where there is a shopping center. If you wanted to go to Hawaii, to go to Whole Foods Market or Longmont Drug, you're in luck because that's what's there. So you can head over, it's about a mile walk to get to the grocery store if that's where you want to go. Even Uber will have you come all the way out here to be picked up. So they can't come into the high security port if that's what you're planning on doing. Your best bet is to walk off the ship and have a tour already planned, or walk off the ship right here and get a taxi. That's the only way to get out of there. So plan, or you're going to be real disappointed. It's a $70 to $80, maybe even more now, cab ride to Lahaina. So I wouldn't recommend that unless you have, 5 people you can put into a cab. Maybe that's worth it to you to get to Lahaina. They do have Lyft and Uber once you get outside the high security port. You can get the taxi right there off the ship. There's rental cars over at the airport. There's a city bus once you get out to the main road. Again, that's about a mile walk. $2, but it's not a tour bus. Let me really be very clear about that. Everybody asks me, well, how do they take you to Haleakala? No. This is for people to get around to the grocery stores and go to work, just like at your home, the city bus, okay? So you can get on it, but there's probably not a whole lot you're going to see tourist-wise on the city bus. There's no shuttles. Don't expect a shuttle to Lahaina, okay? And, of course, the best way to get around is to have a tour already planned so you can just go. If you want to ride the bus, it's $2. Daily pass is $4, and they have senior discounts. Don't forget to ask. There's the bus route. It takes you to the towns, right? So imagine if you needed to go to work. That's the places the city bus takes you, places where people work. Now, near the port, if you do get a taxi, there are some things you could do that are not $70 to $80. This is a state park that's pretty close to the port, about maybe 15-minute drive, and it's called Io Valley State Park. It has a demonstration of some terrace gardening like the Hawaiians used to farm. Beautiful mountains. This is the Valley Isle, so lots of mountains and valleys on Maui. And it has this beautiful pinnacle, which there's a wonderful story, a Hawaiian lore about this pinnacle. Okay, and that's right here. So there's our port, Kahului Harbor, and Io Valley State Park is right there with that yellow arrow. Then we have the road to Hana. Anybody driving the road to Hana? All right, I see a lot of men's hands up. Let me give you a piece of advice, men. It's not about the destination. It's not about getting to Hana, okay? Just get that out of your head right now. It's about the journey because there are state parks, waterfalls, freshwater pools, beaches, black sand beaches, all along the road to Hana. That's what you're supposed to do on the road to Hana, not just get to Hana because there's nothing in Hana. Literally, there's nothing there. It just ends there. The road ends. So you need at least 4 hours to drive this road. 600 curves and 54 bridges. If you're like me, you're going to want to close your eyes for most of it because my husband likes to drive really fast around curves. If you leave with everybody else, you won't have a choice because you're all going to be driving together on this 2-lane road. But it's fantastic. It's gorgeous, and you should do it. It's right here's our port, Kahului. This is the road to Hana. And these are all the stops that you can download this map, the Road to Hana interactive map, all the cool stops to see on the way there. So I'm going to talk about a few of them right now. It's 52 miles long, by the way. The first one is Piahi. Now, somebody asked me about big waves. Usually big waves happen in the winter, so this is not the season for big waves. But if you've heard about Jaws, which is a huge surf break where they get 80-foot waves, it's on the way to the Road to Hana. You're going to pass it. You'll see a sign for it. Really cool spot, so you can check that out. I know I went there when there was about 30-foot waves breaking, and you could feel up on the cliff the ground moving underneath my feet because the power of water is tremendous, and I love to see it in action. Now, here's a little secret spot. The Haleamale General Store. There's a legendary chef that works here, and they have amazing lunches and dinners. So if you're going on the road to Hana, you might want to pull off and go this way. Check out this little general store. It's right there. So you'll have to get off the road. That's okay, men. You can divert. So you have to go out here there's a little turnoff. The Hohio Gulch, the 7 sacred pools, is another known spot to stop and look at these beautiful waterfalls cascading off the sides of the island. Waimoku Falls, another beautiful waterfall. It comes off the island. Now, this is the side of the island that gets rain, remember? I told you one side gets rain, one side doesn't. So this is the rainy side. It may be raining on the road to Hana. It could be, because that's why it has all the waterfalls. All the rain hits the mountains and falls down. There's hikes through these beautiful bamboo forests. Of course, not native to Hawaii, but they were planted. And so gorgeous bamboo, black bamboo. There's also the painted eucalyptus on the road to Hana. Waianapanapa State Park, another great stop. Black Sand Beach, freshwater caves, where freshwater's coming out of these underground caves. And then Haleakala. You cannot get to Haleakala National Park on the road to Hana. Just an FYI. If you're renting a car, they're going to tell you, do not drive past this mark because this is an unmanaged road. There's gravel, there's boulders, there's things falling off the mountain. They do not allow you, nor will they save you if you go this way. So Hana is a one-way road. We have to come back all the way to where you started. If you want to go to Haleakala, you have to go this way. Haleakala National Park. Again, always go to the national parks. There are no commercial tours that day. That's why we're not offering any tours. It's closed to commercial business, but it's open for tourists. It's open for us, the American people who paid for the taxes to run it, but they're not allowed to have any commercial tours, which would be kind of cool to see no big buses there. It's just you walking around by yourself. So go check out Haleakala. Gorgeous. I have a picture here of me. Looks like a painting, right? Sitting up on top of the mountain, looking down into the valley of Haleakala volcano. There's no public transportation up there, even on a regular day. There's no buses that go there. Just tours can take you up. Haleakala is the world's largest dormant volcano, which last erupted in 1790. It forms more than 75% of the island of Maui. The crater's 7,000 feet deep. It's 7.5 miles long and 2.5 miles wide. It's pretty big. You can go for days hiking in there. They have little huts set up for stayovers. And they often do tours for sunrises and sunsets to watch from the top of Haleakala because you'll be facing the dry side of the island. And often you can see the sunrise and sunset. So you'll be there enough time to see the sunset from Haleakala. And if you love stars, that's the place to watch them, up 9,000 feet above sea level on the top of a volcano. One of my favorite excursions I've ever done is to paraglide off of Haleakala. Tom and I did it, where you just run and then you're flying off the side of the volcano. He loved it so much he became a paragliding pilot. But I really highly recommend hitting this national park. Of course, there's me getting my Junior Ranger badge. So they have a visitor center up there. They have ranger programs, of course, going on all day, just like any other national park. Ranger walks. They have a film in there about wings, waves, winds, or man, about all the ways that things came to be, evolved on the islands of Hawaii. Okay, next stop, Honolua Bay. That's right over here. So if we've just came around the road to Hana, we just went to Haleakala. Now we're driving this way to Honolua Bay. It's a beautiful overlook. You're looking at the northwestern point off of Maui, and often there's surfers out there, so you can sit up there and watch. There's turtles down in the bay. You can watch them. And then we'll come around to Lahaina, Kanapali and Lahaina, right next to each other. This is where all the tourism is. So all the hotels are there, all the shops are there, all the restaurants are there, and everything else is people's neighborhoods, right? This is the place where tourists go. All of the boat tours go out of here. So if you're going out on dolphin watching trips, they'll be going out of here, or snorkeling trips as well. And Lahaina is right there. So if you're coming from the harbor, you have a car, you can drive around, beautiful sights. Or if you want to get to it, about an hour drive over to Lahaina from the harbor. And this is the dry side of the island. Notice the mountains. They're all brown because it doesn't get as much water as the other side. There's some pictures to give you an idea of what that looks like. So there's all the activities that tourists do, the oldest missionary home there. There's a giant banyan tree right in the middle of town, a good meeting spot for husbands and wives. You go shop for jewelry. I'll stay here at the banyan tree. And it's a great place to learn how to surf if you've always wanted to try it. Look at the wave. Anybody can do that, right? It's foam boards. If you get hit in the head, it won't hurt. And little tiny waves, you can try it. It's a good place to try surfing. Okay, snorkel spots. My favorite spots. This is a little secret spot. Tom and I we're a mile offshore swimming out there. We can go about 1.5 miles actually offshore, and you can still see the bottom. It's about 80 to 100 feet deep, but sometimes the water is so clear you can still see the corals out there. If you're not that adventurous, and if you've never snorkeled, please don't do that. Only for advanced snorkelers, but I'll show you where that is in just a second. I highly recommend going out to Molokini. So it's away from the island of Maui. It's actually on its own little islet. This is an old volcano that the side of the caldera has already sunk beneath the surface of the ocean. And so this is a coral reef inside of here. And they can bring you across from Maui, from Makena, the city of Makena, on a little boat. It's only 2 miles across, and you can go snorkeling in the mouth of a volcano. How cool is that? So there we go. There's Lahaina. There's mile marker 14, Oluwalu Reef, for some advanced snorkeling. And there's Makena, so you can get a boat and get out to Molokini. And I believe that there is a tour as well, it's an excursion. They take you to Molokini, so you don't have to rent a car and then park your car and then get a boat and then go snorkeling. And here's another little secret spot of mine. It's the Makawao Forest Trail. Makawao is a little town over here off the main drag on your way to Hana, and it's up in the mountains. It's up going to the top of Haleakala. It's about 2,500 feet above sea level, but it has redwoods, eucalyptus, cook pines, and koa, all planted there. Not the koa is actually native, but all of them are planted there. And it's beautiful trails through the forest, up above the ocean, so you get good views, and it's really pretty. So I like to go up there and hike. And who's going to a luau? Fantastic. Yeah, great way to end the day. Have a delicious dinner, listen to some Hawaiian music, watch some Hawaiian dance, learn about a little bit of culture. And that, mahalo, a hui ho, is the end of my presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow, we'll be doing the last 3 ports. Right now, in 5 minutes, Tom's show, Intro to Photography, composition is starting in the Firebird Lounge. And tomorrow, 11 a.m., I'll be back in here with you. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'll meet you in the back of the theater. Mahalo for coming. Hui ho.